Hey, Miranda, when we first get into human design, in your opinion, where do we start when we're looking at the centers? Our undefined centers or our defined centers in terms of deconditioning?
Yes, I love that question. I feel that it doesn't really depend on if it's defined or undefined. I feel like there's certain aspects in societal norms that we have to ask ourselves, are we conditioned in that aspect? And then look to see, okay, am I defined in that aspect or am I undefined in that aspect? So an example would be as an entrepreneur or as a business owner, am I living up or looking into societal norms of I have to go 100% in my business until I get to a certain amount of money where then I can take a break. So there's that. So if you look, I'm a Mani-Gen. I have a defined sacral, right? So if I have that conditioning that I have to go 100% until I make a certain amount of money, then I'm going to burn out my sacral center, even though it's defined. So I have to trust in responding, which is strategy and authority. So I would say then, are you following strategy and authority first? Mm-hmm. Notice where you have these beliefs about social norms in business, in relationships, or whatever it is. Look at your center, see if it's defined or undefined, and then work on those areas first.
Mm-hmm. How does the root play into that, or even the will center in committing to things?
That's very interesting. Yeah. So the root I have defined. So for me, I definitely can push through with adrenaline. I have a lot of adrenaline. It goes to my spleen, it goes to my throat, sacral to root, to spleen to throat. So I have a lot of stuff there. But just because I can, and this is even with the will center.
Yeah.
Just because we can does not mean we should. If we're not following our strategy and we're not following our authority and we feel like, well, I have the energy anyway, and we continue to push, what will happen is then we're going to burn ourselves out anyway. So you're living in societal norms and not following your strategy. Mm-hmm. So if you have a defined root, it's asking, or defined will, one of my favorite things to ask myself when something comes up is, am I pushing with my will right now? Like, is this my willpower? Because I know 100% when it is. Like, yes, I'm pushing through. So at that point in time, it's like, okay, can I change the direction of what I'm doing? Can I say no? Can I put it off? And if not, how can I make sure I rest afterwards? Because just because I can doesn't mean I should. I'll burn it out.
Yeah.
And the same with the root, with the adrenaline. Yeah. It's like, are you following strategy? Did you follow strategy when you made this decision? And if you didn't, okay, if you can't change the direction or the appointment or whatever it is, then do it, but then rest after. And start to be more aware of when you're saying yes to things.
How do you feel like we know when we're pushing an edge and growing and learning versus totally out of alignment and it's just not, no pass go?
Well, all I can share is from my perspective and the way that I feel. I feel like we have to embody things, and the way that we share is through what we experience. As with my yoga teacher training, they always told us that if you're not doing the work and practicing it and doing it yourself, then you shouldn't be sharing it with others because you don't know how it affects you.
Yeah.
So if you're doing the work, you can share your perspective and see if people resonate with it or not, because some people will and some people won't. And that's okay because we're all different parts. So what was the question?
Like, how do we know that we're pushing an edge? Like, if we've committed something, say we're, it felt like strategy and authority was, yes, I'm going to commit to 90 days of showing up live on social media or whatever the 3D thing is. But you get into it and you're like, I don't want to do this anymore halfway through or a week in. I'm not lit up anymore. It's starting to push your edge. Right? It's pushing you in some way that's making you feel uncomfortable.
I feel like having the awareness when you make that choice is a priority.
Mhm.
Knowing I'm going to make this commitment to 90 days.
Mm.
I know that right now it excites me, but most likely within this 90 days, there's going to be a time when I don't want to do this. So am I going to make this commitment and do it? Or am I not going to make this commitment and do it for 30 days instead? I feel like
I
having
love
the
that.
awareness in the beginning
Yeah.
of choosing, I know I'm going to have resistance here and I'm choosing to do it anyway, then that's your choice. You have your
Yeah.
choice to not follow strategy in that way because you made a commitment to yourself.
Yeah.
But being honest with yourself in the beginning so that you know it's going to be a struggle at points, but I made a promise to myself.
Mm.
So that way you're not surprised when it comes up and you're like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. Right. Because 90
Yeah.
days, I feel like is a long time
It
to
is.
make a commitment like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I feel like it's self-awareness and being truthful with yourself
I
in the
love
beginning.
that. I love that. It's like setting, I mean, it's a goal, right? You're setting a goal that you're going to do this thing. And do you really feel like you're capable of doing it? Like if you're super, super honest, can you all the way through? If you can't, you're like, yeah, I'm definitely not going to be able to push through when it gets hard I know that there's some holiday in the middle of that and it's going to mess everything up. And then I'm going to feel guilty and bad about it. So why don't I just do it until 60 days or whatever, or 30 days or whatever that.
Right. And, something came up to me with that too, because that's self-sabotage. If you know in
Yeah.
the beginning,
Yeah.
you truly do know. If you ask yourself honestly, okay,
Yeah.
am I going to be able to do this for 90 days? And you make that commitment that you can and you do it, great. But if in the beginning you're like, okay, I'll do 90 days, but I know it's not going to really happen. Like that is setting yourself up to fail, basically. So
Mhm.
you're setting yourself up knowing that you're going to fail. So then you're
Yeah.
proving to yourself that you can't follow through. You're setting those
Yep.
expectations too
Yep.
high for yourself, and then you're self-sabotaging yourself, and then you're going to get down on yourself, and I can't even follow through, and all this type of stuff happens.
Yeah, even though it was a self-fulfilling prophecy, you knew it in the beginning, but holy
And that's, I guess,
oh,
would be
yeah,
being the brutally honest with
yeah,
yourself.
yeah,
I mean, we can totally want to show up 90 days. But if
mhm,
you know, like, I feel like for me, I know I have like this gut kind of like, oh, that's not going to happen. Like, it's not going to fully happen. But then
yeah,
you say yes because you're hoping it will happen, but you know it's not going to happen. So be
mhm,
honest with yourself and say,
yeah,
okay, I know 90 days is not going to happen. I'm going to go for 60.
yep,
Like, really be honest with yourself so that you are proving to yourself that you can do it, not proving to yourself that you can't do it. Because you
yeah,
want to feel that movement. You want to feel like when you make these goals, you can do it. Because otherwise, subconsciously, you're creating this space of making these goals, knowing you're not going to do it.
mm, I love that. And I feel like I've fallen into that trap, and I feel like this is a perfect conversation to have, right? At the end of the year, going into the new year and what you're setting your goals to and what you want the next year to look like. And it's not, I don't think playing small and what do you think is actually possible, but the commitment piece of different strategies and are you committed to showing up? Are you committed to doing the hard work and really, really being honest with yourself? I don't think I was ever honest with myself in the beginning about I would just set the goal and then I'd get partially into it and be like, I can't do this or self to have and it's the self-fulfilling prophecy. I wasn't honest with myself. I knew it in the beginning that I wasn't going to follow through or that I didn't actually think I could do it. I love that.
Yeah, I love honesty with self because that helps you understand yourself more,
Mhm.
be aware of yourself, being truthful to yourself.
Mhm.
Always setting yourself up in a way that's going to support you and not make you fall back,
Mhm.
because if we're constantly setting ourselves up with too much, we constantly fall back, then we feel like we can't attain anything. So
Yeah.
I mean, I think it even goes with the little steps. Like start with little steps first and then go bigger if you feel like you can. Like I remember when I started
Yeah.
my podcast, I had 3 episodes that I was doing a week. And I knew it was going to be a lot. The first episode was very short and I did it for a long time. And then I was like, oh my gosh, this is like a lot of editing. It's a lot of work. So I just showed up on my podcast and was like, okay, I tried this and it didn't work. I'm a manager and I'm going to twice a week, you know? So I owned it. I took responsibility. Like, I tried this. I didn't fail because right now I'm readjusting. I'm informing because as a manager, you have to inform, and appreciation for yourself in informing, in being honest and readjusting and not feeling like you failed because you no longer could do the 3 times a week.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. And I need the accountability just as much as the, like, I know that I can do this. I'm setting this goal for myself. I need the accountability. The fact that I have a VA that like puts the podcast together and uploads it, and I'm paying her and she's relying on me and the money that I give her to do that for her family, right? I don't want to leave her out to dry just because I didn't feel like it someday has been huge in me pushing through. And I say that loosely, pushing through the times that I'm like, I don't know what to talk about. I don't want to do this anymore. This is too hard.
Mhm.
And honestly, it's just I'm being emotional about it or whatever. Like, it has nothing to do with the actual like mission of or where I'm really going. It's just I'm bored with it or who knows what.
Mhm. Well, I love that you set up the VA because and that's another way that you can work through that is if I'm doing this for 90 days, how can I set it up for those days that I know I'm not going to want to show up? Am I going to
Mhm.
do it with someone? Am I going to, is there something that I can do to continue to show up so that I am supported for those days that are a little bit more difficult where I can still continue to
Yeah.
follow through
Yeah.
even though it's difficult?
Yeah. Yeah. And not blaming ADHD and my
Yeah, or just not doing it.
scattered brain goes, "Oh, I'm distracted. I didn't have time," or whatever. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the accountability part.
Mhm. It's been crucial. I wouldn't have a podcast without her. Hands down. It wouldn't happen.
Mhm.
Mhm. You got a question in you. I know you do.
Oh, you're gonna put it on me now. I see what you did just there. Okay, let me feel into it. Okay. Hmm. Okay, so we were talking about accountability first of all.
Mhm.
When we're pushing through, we were talking about the defined and undefined center. So, which is most important as far as like the awareness of where we
Right.
need
Right.
deconditioning. So, if we are talking about societal norms and expectations of what is expected of us as teachers, guides, coaches, entrepreneurs, what do you feel is an area that a lot of people try to strive for with the expectation of social norms in their business?
Oh, open head, open ajna all day long. I mean, or defined. I feel like our society is so focused on the how and it's not making things happen, but it's like, how are you going to get there? Okay, it's smart goals to the max, right? You set this goal and you're going to make sure it's whatever sustainable, whatever smart goals stands for, tracking, whatever, all those things. Um, and I think it stifles creativity in a lot of ways, especially for the right-brained people of the world where we don't like that. Like, I don't like setting SMART goals because I feel like it stifles my creativity. I don't leave anything to chance. I am trying to control everything, and I know that I am not the best person to control things. Things happen so much better when I loosen that grip and understand that there's so much I can't see and know about in any given moment, and it's not my job to figure out the how, right? And I'm open head, open ajna, so really understanding that it's not a so what was I watching the other day where I noticed the open ajna going haywire, and I was like watching a marketing thing and they were talking about how to market, right? And I was going, oh yeah, like this is totally, yeah, like totally eating it up, right? Soaking it in and then I'm like, wait, just because that's working for them, just because that makes sense to them doesn't mean that it's going to make sense for me and what I want to do. And so I have to filter it through my own strategy, authority, and definition and go, is this actually right for me? Is this actually in alignment, or is it just something that I can observe and take away little bits and pieces, but know ultimately that like my strategy is probably not going to be found out there.
Hmm. Yeah, with the undefined head, undefined ajna, or open head and ajna, I can totally see how that would confuse people,
Mm,
like the shiny object type syndrome, like, oh,
yeah.
this, let me do all the things. And I
Yeah.
remember that in the beginning.
Yeah.
Um, like I felt like I had to be everywhere and all things. And people even
Yep.
said, "You have to be on all these platforms
Yep.
and all this stuff." And it's like, but that like takes all of my time and it's so much work and it doesn't feel good and it's not fun. And,
Yep.
it feels like I'm just bits and pieces everywhere and I can't go in depth in any areas. So when you do feel that way in that undefined head or open head nausea, what is it that grounds you to know what is true for you?
I have to step away from the desk and go for a walk. That's what I did yesterday. I got super into it and I could feel things getting like my own foundation shaking, right? Like my own understanding of what I know to be true and how I want to do things felt like it was shaking underneath of me. And I'm like, oh, I gotta get out of here. Put it down, stop. And I went for a really long walk, which is like an hour, which with 2 kids home all the time, that's a long time to be gone. Just
Mhm.
disappear. Oh, and no headphones, no nothing. Like it's just me walking and getting back to my center, finding my truth and what I want to do and who I am and all of that. And came back from that walk like with so many number one ideas of how I can make what I'm doing better, but also uh, a grounding in that I can do it whatever way I want.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like every person has their own unique way of grounding into themselves. And you have mentioned your walks before and getting out in nature and just
Yeah.
having time by yourself. And for me, it's more so like breath work or meditation or stillness
Yeah.
where I'm just in my own energy and not listening. Sometimes I listen to some music, like the ambient music or whatever, but more so it's about the breath or something like that. So
Mhm.
that kind of like clears out that
Yeah.
clutter of
Yeah.
all the noise.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but also you do receive beautiful ideas from listening, but it has to be that yes and of I'm gonna listen. And even though my emotional solar plexus is like, yeah, I have to like get out,
Yeah.
reground, and know if it's for me.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
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 I think
Filtering
that's
it too.
a great tip. Yeah,
Yeah.
especially for every and what about the defined head? What do you feel
Mm.
like the defined head?
I think they can get lost in that certainty as well, or almost get locked in to this is the only way it can be and have a really hard time breaking out of that there are other options, right? Like if they don't, um, the certainty of if I work really hard, I can have the thing that I want. There's that certainty that this is the way things work instead of realizing that no, there is another way. There's other ways you can work and still receive what you want. I think that's what I've seen.
Yeah, so it's almost like the undefined needs space alone to release and to ground into what they already truly know.
Mhm.
And then the defined has to kind of somehow get all of the clutter, all the talk quiet so
Mhm.
that they can truly pinpoint that one
Yeah.
thing. So would you say that I'm wondering then if because I have noticed that the defined head and ajna loves to be around the undefined head and ajna because the defined is like you said, so focused on their stuff that they don't open up to new perspectives of other
Mhm.
stuff. So when they're in that energy of the undefined, they receive that.
Mm.
Whereas the undefined has to go be by themselves.
Yeah, and honestly, I kinda love, like, pushing the defined people a little bit and going, "Is that the right perspective you want? Oh, well, here's another perspective."
Yeah, because I can totally
Yeah.
see how they get stuck.
Mhm.
It's like you get stuck in that one thing. And it's not that you're not hearing or not listening. It's just that you're so focused on that one thing that you don't hear the other possibilities.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas
I
if you
see that.
opened up, you would be like, "Oh my gosh, that's a wonderful idea."
Yeah, I totally see it with my daughter who has a defined head nausea, and she focuses in on something and like, this is the way, this is her perspective on the situation, right? And there's no other option. There's no other way that it could be. Like, there's a lot of ways it could be, sweetheart. and pointing and pointing out different perspectives of that situation so that it opens her up to not just her one poignant way that she thinks it has to be.
Mm,
Yeah.
I love that awareness. I'm mostly around people that have open-headed or undefined hidden ajanas, and my ajna is totally open.
Mhm.
So I feel like things just like are gone, you know? So I have to like ground into my own silence so I can hear it because otherwise I don't catch it.
Yeah.
What do you feel about the G center being
Mm.
defined and undefined?
It's interesting because I have a defined G center, and there's definitely been a period in my life right around that Saturn return. Maybe that's a sixth line identity crisis too, but it felt like I didn't know who I was. It,
Mm,
and, but I've always known that I am lovable. I feel like lovability is a huge piece of the G center. And I've always known like that hasn't been an issue. It's like the direction of where am I going? What am I doing? I don't have, like, I keep changing my mind. What is wrong with me? Like all of that, I think, even as a defined G, was a struggle for a period of time.
And do you have because in the G centers, the love gates and the direction gates. Do you know if you have more love gates or direction gates?
I haven't looked into that.
That might be something to look into.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you said that you always know you're lovable. So maybe you have more definition within the love gates and not as many in the direction gate.
Activation direction. Yeah, that might make sense. Yeah. I'm gonna look into that.
Yeah. And I have the undefined G.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think I have 2 gates that are direction and 1 gate that is love, I think. But, um, which makes sense because I've always had somewhat of a direction. I do feel like when I get wrapped up in people that have the defined G, I do lose myself if I'm not aware. Like, if I don't have enough alone time to ground into who
Yep.
I am first,
Yeah.
I definitely lose who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I kind of have a little bit of direction, but the lovability part, no. The
Mm.
lovability part for me, understanding like who I am, if I could be loved, if anyone would even love me because I don't even know who I am because I keep changing, I keep morphing, and I keep like I'm this person around this person and this person around this person. Like I don't even know who I am. So for the love part in putting yourself out there as an entrepreneur, if you don't know confidently if who you are, who your
Yeah.
identity is, how are you going to trust that you are being authentic,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yes.
You are gonna change all the time, but I think that's also the beauty of the G Center is that you do change, and that's okay. But it's being okay with that too, and not feeling like, I mean, everybody tells us you should know who you are, and it shouldn't change. Like, your identity
Oh my
is
gosh.
the same throughout your entire life, which is such bullshit.
Tell that to an undefined G and you have a person that is like suicidal because they keep changing all the time.
I can't handle it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then even getting down on yourself because, I mean, you have an undefined G and a manly gen. Come on. If you're going to be changing and doing all the different things all the time, then you think something's wrong with you. What is wrong
Yeah.
with me? Why can't I settle? Why can't I
Yeah.
stick to one thing?
Yeah.
Why do I act this way around one person? Why do I? It's, yeah,
Yeah.
the lovability part for the undefined is a real thing.
Yep.
That
Yeah.
is another thing of, for me is alone time.
Mhm.
Asking, like, how am I feeling today? Who am I? So then that way, when I come into the aura of like you that has the defined, I know who I am. I feel grounded in who I am. I can use your energy to identify
Mhm.
it with it, but it's not what I become. Whereas
Mhm.
if I'm not grounded, I become that.
Mhm.
So interesting.
Mhm. And you take on their do you feel like you take on their values, their beliefs, some of those things? Or what do you feel like you take on if you're not grounded in who you are?
I don't feel like I take on their beliefs because I have a totally open heart.
Mhm.
My beliefs are like, I think people think I'm a little weird sometimes with some of the things I believe, which we've talked about.
Yeah.
Um, Now the identity part in who I feel like I should be
Mm.
in my as my persona of my business or
Right.
in my relationships or in my friendships, who I should be, I can feel like I take those on some more sometimes.
Yeah.
And then I have this guilt or shame that that's not truly who I am, and it
Mhm.
should be who I am because
Mhm.
I'm taking that energy in, if that makes sense.
Mhm. It's almost like if somebody is, like, super bubbly and, like, dancing on, Instagram stories all the time, you're like, "I should be like that. I should wanna do that." And you're like, "Oh god, I don't wanna do that. That's not who I am." Like, but you feel this pressure and a guilt that yeah, there's this cognitive dissonance between those 2 things. Yeah.
Or if you're with someone and you're dancing on Instagram together, and then you're in your own essence, and you go home and you look at it and like, "What the hell was I doing?" Like, "Why was I doing that?"
It was fun with them, but no.
That is not me.
That's funny.
Which is
Yeah.
my experience.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Mhm. That makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, so you take on people's identity and you don't know it,
Mhm.
and then you see yourself and you're like, "Why did I do that? It wasn't me. I wasn't being authentic. I was embodying them."
Mhm.
Which you said it is a gift, especially in the coaching realm too,
Yep.
because to be able to take in other people's identity and to truly understand them more than they think you know. Like, I just know things that I know that I'm like, "Should I just ask this question because I already know the answer?" You know?
Uh-huh.
And I've
Yeah.
had people tell me that, but it's also like, you can't use that. You have to give them the space to just open up,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
I get to embody that and witness that, but sometimes it's a lot of pressure sometimes to know
Yeah.
those things.
Yeah. Do you feel like asking the right question to help them come to the conclusion on their own? Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
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 And there's been a couple
Powerful.
times within my family or friendships when I just say it right out loud. I'm like, "Don't you mean that this, and this?" And they're like, "Oh, yeah." So I truly do feel like that's a superpower, even though it's been a struggle for most of my life. Now that I understand it, I truly get to know people, and
Mm.
I appreciate that because what a gift to really know people and even know their insecurities without them knowing it, and just holding that space for them to be able to express it because you understand.
Yeah. I mean, that's and say the open centers are the wisest places that we hold. So yeah. Oh, I love that.
I know
Mhm.
the wisest places that we hold when we do the deconditioning.
Yes.
So we've mentioned like the conditioning of societal norms.
Yeah.
I feel like that is priority first. Like, what expectations, what judgments do I have? What am I putting on myself that is not true and accurate for me that I truly don't believe, that I'm conditioning myself to believe? And
Mhm.
then going into the undefined
Yeah.
and like clearing out all the clutter
Mhm.
beliefs and expectations so that you can open up to those possibilities of, oh, wow, I have an undefined G. I actually get to witness all of these beautiful people in a way that I get to support them and hold space for them. And it's not me.
Mhm.
And then they feel like you see them because you truly do see them. But you
Mhm.
can't do that if you're conditioned. You can't do
No,
that if I'm sitting there thinking, I don't know myself, I'm crap, I don't love myself, I don't know who I am. Like if I'm sitting there thinking that, how am I going to hold space for someone else?
you're not. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. Oh,
Mhm.
I feel like a lot of the work I do, people come to me wanting me to kind of tell them what their message is and tell them what is going to be that thing, right? And while I can do that, so many of them are still stuck in that story and stuck in what has happened in the past or stuck in the conditioning, stuck in the cultural norms, all of that, that even when I say, here's what your energy is saying, and here's how you can show up in a more authentic way, it still feels like a wool sweater in the middle of summer because they're still wearing the old stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And usually what that is there's fear,
Hmm.
there may be fear that and vulnerability. Like,
So
if
much
I'm
vulnerability.
truly authentic and myself, what if no one loves me? What if
Hmm.
people don't like me? What if they retaliate? What if no one wants to work with me?
Yep.
So there's that vulnerability where you can stay safe. If someone tells you what to do and it didn't work, right?
Yeah.
Because then it
Yeah.
doesn't hurt as much. It's not you.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Ooh, that's a
Hmm.
big one, I think. That's a
Hmm.
big one. If someone tells us what to do, then
Yeah.
if it doesn't work, then we're okay with it because it wasn't us. It wasn't our vulnerability. It wasn't any of that. Someone else told me what to do. But if
Hmm.
I was vulnerable and shared myself and no one showed up,
All on me.
that's going to hurt.
Hmm. Yep. Oh, and I can totally relate to that. I mean, in my getting in my journey, I 100% laid it out there for people that like I'm looking for the thing that's going to make me successful or whatever, and not taking ownership over my own experience, my own thoughts, my own beliefs, and just waiting for someone to fix it for me.
Well, you had the provocation. So we're
I
going to
know.
work on that stuff.
I've done a lot of work on it, trust me. But I know I can go deeper. But now I mean, I own my shit. I own every experience that I have, good, bad, or otherwise. Um, and I honestly I think the only I can hold people in that because I walked through it, right? When
Hmm.
you hire the coach and you feel like it was a ripoff or you didn't get what you paid for. Been there. It was because I didn't own my shit. But
Yeah, you
saying
wanted them
that,
to tell you. You wanted
mhm,
them to tell you what to do
yep,
so you could follow their programming and
yeah,
become successful, but
yeah,
that wasn't you.
yeah,
That was them.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I mean, there's so much intertwined stuff in there of, and maybe the whole experience was just for me to observe what they were doing and not actually do the whole thing. Although I have noticed if I'm committed and I do the process of whatever that was, of which have been different things in the past, but do someone's whole process, I 100% have success with it. It's just then I'm at the end, I'm like, I actually didn't really love that. I'm gonna go do something else now.
Right. Well, do you feel like you take bits and pieces of what you did like?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now I do. Yeah. Now I can look back and go, I'm taking that and that has served me and that piece has served me and that piece has served me. And I mean, 7 years later, I know a lot because I
Mhm.
did all that stuff.
And I think that's very important to kind of preface there because I had the same experience when working with people. Like I had an expectation of what it was going to be like. But then as soon as I went through the process, there were certain aspects I was like, "Mm, I don't
Mhm.
really like that. That
Yeah.
doesn't feel good, but I really love this." So I've
Mhm.
always learned that you never know what you're going to walk away with when you
Yeah.
choose to have an experience with a coach or a mentor or anything like
Yeah.
that. But if you know you're going to walk away with what you needed and you trust
Mhm.
that, then
Mhm.
you go with an open mind and open heart and you receive exactly what you need,
Yeah,
although it's not what you think most likely that you need.
probably.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I remember that from yoga actually, because there was a yoga teacher that I absolutely loved, and I showed up to the class, and it was a guest yoga teacher, and I was like, "Ugh, I really don't want to work with this teacher." But then I was like, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna show up. I'm gonna let things go, and I'm gonna receive whatever it is in that moment that I need. And there was always something that I was like, wow, that
Mm,
was amazing. This is what I took from it. So every experience, whether it's something that you expect is going to look like something or it's not, if you open yourself up to receive what you're supposed to receive, you're there for a reason.
mhm.
Are you going to let yourself receive that, or are you going to be stuck in the expectation of what you thought you were going to receive and not receive anything because you're so closed minded?
Yeah. Mhm. So well
That's
said.
that totally open ajna.
So well said. Oh, yeah. And now I feel like every experience is, especially if it's sacral led, and I'm like, I know I need to be doing this. This excites me. Feels like the next step. I'm open to whatever it has to show me. And whatever is coming through is exactly what I need. And it's up to me of whether or not I'm going to pay attention to what that lesson is or pay attention to what it's trying to tell me.
Hmm. Hmm. And
Mhm.
most of the time, it's not what we expect or what we would think we want.
No, no, no.
Because that's our mind, that's our conditioned mind based on our experiences and our beliefs of what we know.
Mhm.
And if you open up to different possibilities, you receive things that your mind couldn't comprehend before. So, how
Yeah.
are you going to comprehend things if you haven't learned it before? All your
Yeah.
mind is telling you is what you've already experienced or what you think you should experience. So, if you
Mhm.
open up to receive whatever it is supposed to be, then you're opening up your mind and your perspective in a more expansive way.
Mhm. I love that. Beautifully said.
Yep. Thanks. Mm.
Kind of
Any other centers that we don't want to go into? Well, the emotional solar plexus is one of my favorites, you know,
yeah, let's go there.
um, especially with the defined emotional solar plexus. I feel like there's so much here. So the defined, I feel like so many people have the emotional wave, and the people that I've been working with, a lot of them really struggle with the lows of the
Mhm.
emotional wave because of conditioning.
Yep.
Because when they were younger, either people said, "What is wrong with you? Snap out of it." Like, you need to be high vibe. Like,
Yeah.
something's wrong with you if you're feeling those deep emotions.
Yep.
And I've been working with a lot of people with the emotional wave. And I've noticed that when you support people in the lower expression of the emotions, they actually move through that lower expression, first of all, much quicker
Yep.
with love and compassion for themselves
Yep.
and are very creative. So
Mm.
that is where they dive into either their art, their music,
Mm.
their creativity, their writing is in the depths of the low. And what has
Mm.
been happening is because everyone has been saying, "What's wrong with you? Snap out of it. You need to be high vibe." They're limiting their creativity, which is then
Mm.
going to make that low even heavier because they're creatives.
They can't
So it's
express it. They need to get it out. Yeah.
yeah, and to love the process
Oh.
of the low. Like to really, I'm in my low. What do I get to do for myself now? Do I get to be by myself? Do I get to paint? Do I get to read? Do I go for a walk? It's more so like I get to.
Mm.
What do I get to do within this space?
Mhm.
So, and I truly feel, and I've mentioned this before, I truly feel that most of society, and I was one of them. I have a four line. I have lots of fours in my gene keys. So a lot of fours has to do four lines is heart service area.
Yep.
It also has to do with coldness as far as
Mm.
protection,
Mhm.
numbness.
Mhm.
Like as soon as there is something that I feel like it's going to hurt, I can feel my heart just close,
Yeah.
close, and it's cold. I can say the things without any feeling, none at
Yeah.
all. And I feel like a lot of people are so numb in the world because they don't want to feel.
Mhm.
They've been told you're emotional. They've been told that being emotional is wrong, that
Mhm.
crying is wrong,
Mhm.
that anger is wrong,
Yep.
that all of these things are scary and that we need to suppress them. And because of that, we're so closed. But
Mhm.
what if the creatives with their art and opening up to music and love actually starts to open those feelings so that we actually connect with people and life and nature at a deeper level? Then
Mhm.
humanity heals through love. It's not closed, it's not hard, it's not
Mhm.
cold, it's not
Mhm.
numb. And
Mhm.
I feel like people are so afraid to feel.
Yeah. 100%. I can relate to that. I
Yeah,
know.
like
Yeah.
you don't want to feel love because, well, if I love too much, it's too much. And what if I get hurt? What
Mhm.
if they don't love me as much as I love them? I
Mhm.
don't want to feel pain because it hurts. I don't want to feel fear because it's scary. I don't want to feel like someone left me because it's abandonment and it means I'm not lovable. But what if we actually embraced all the feels?
Mhm. And felt it, like, actually felt it. And I've done this a few times now. Have you read the book Existential Kink?
No, but I will say so much stuff is coming up for me about kink and all the stuff that I think I should.
You should. I haven't read the whole book. I've only read, like, I mean, classic me. I read, like, the first third of the book, and then I'm on to something else. But I was actually, it was audio. I looked into the first third of it, and it was basically it's saying that if we can just like really feel it like you would, like she talks about getting off to it, right? It's talking about just feeling it deeply all the way through in your entire body. It allows it to pass through your body and out. And the few times that I did it, it was wild. Number one, it felt like it would all consume you for about half a second. It felt like like your whole body was just going to implode. Um, but
That
then
sounds interesting.
it was wild. And then I'd sink into it even deeper, and then it would pass, and I would feel lighter and be like, "Oh, it's not that big of a deal." Like, it, like, came in and passed through and left, and it was done. There was nothing else to mull over in my head, like, it was just done. And I'm like,
And how was your creativity afterwards?
That's a good question. I didn't pay attention to that, so I don't know. Um But yeah, it's making me wanna go, maybe I should do that some more with anything else that's feeling sticky and fearful or whatever, angsty. Um, yeah. Wow, it's
Like
wild.
face it head on,
Yep,
let yourself
yep.
embrace it, experience it fully, and
Mhm,
then notice how you feel afterwards, either that night or the next day. How's your creativity? How's your
mhm,
creative flow? How are you feeling about yourself?
mhm,
Because when you're speaking of that, there was many instances that in the last few months that have come up for me with diving, like going full force into experiencing and feeling and whatever emotion
mhm,
it is.
mhm,
And afterwards, the next day, total creative, like easy, light, fun, so much more. And it's because of the repression and restriction of actually not letting yourself feel.
mm. Yeah, yeah. It's actually making me think of my son because he's a defined emotional. And he has emotional waves for sure. It's very obvious when he does. And he knows that he's upset, but he can't put words to it. It's just he's upset. No other words. How do you feel like with kids in supporting them in going to those steps and feeling it and being able to express it in some way? I feel like his is anger. It's
Mm.
and so anger turns into violence. And that is a boundary for me. But how can you express that anger without it turning into violence? So I'm not teaching him to suppress it. I'm teaching him to just feel it to the depths, and then just let it go.
Hmm. So are you giving him the opportunity to like punch something, whether it be
Yeah.
like boxing or kicking or screaming or whatever it is?
Mhm.
Because that is so important not to keep inside. Because if you do keep that inside, it's going to stay in your cells.
Mhm. Yeah.
So as long as he's physically able to express and move through that,
Mhm.
then it should be able to move through it a lot quicker.
Yeah.
And then maybe talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. He really does not like talking about his emotions.
Well, that means there's something there then.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so what is it that why doesn't he like to talk about it? Is it because he feels bad that he has
Mhm.
these emotions? Because
Mm.
right there, if he's feeling guilty and bad, that is a belief about himself that he's angry and
Mhm.
he feels bad about how angry he is. So he's keeping that in.
Right. Right. Ooh. There's some exploring and work to do there.
And
Yeah.
even just saying, and being angry is not bad.
Yeah.
Being
And we do
angry
talk
is
about that.
not,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
It's if you don't know, that's okay. You can be mad. That's fine.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
angry, I know anger is a huge one as far as fear. A lot of
Mhm.
people, and I, one of them with having a lot of like, there was yelling when I was growing up, domestic violence for me personally.
Yeah.
When people yell or someone like gets in my face, I am like
Yep.
anger, like fight or flight,
Yep.
head on,
Yep.
right? I am ready to fight. So there. But um it's because that awareness that this is fear that I had lived with for so long that now
Mhm.
I jump into this fight or flight of anger to protect myself.
Mhm.
And the thing that was interesting for me was like, I'm angry, so something's wrong with me. People are scared of me rather than I needed this to protect myself. So how can I have love and compassion and work through this anger, knowing that it's not me being angry, it's more so a response that I needed to protect myself. And how can I release that
Mhm.
now in a loving and safe way so that
Mhm.
when this happens, my fight or flight doesn't kick in?
Mhm. You're not as triggered. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, that's beautiful. Wow. Oh, yeah.
Anger is such a
Emotions.
form.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's funny because when people would talk about emotions before, I would always tune in to crying and being emotional and
Yeah.
all, but I never associated anger
Mhm.
with emotions because it scared me. And because I
Mm.
knew that there was stuff with anger
Yeah.
and I suppressed it
Yeah.
because of other people's reaction. So that's a huge talk about.
Mhm. No, I definitely agree. There's a lot of anger. Yeah.
Yeah, there's anger of not being seen when you're a
Mhm.
child. There's anger of not being heard, of you be
Mhm.
seen, not heard. You know what I mean?
Yep.
There's anger of,
Yeah.
I feel like children, at least at my age, they weren't respected. Like I respect my
Yeah.
daughter. I
Yeah.
honor what she says to me. Whereas when I was a child, what I said did not matter
No.
at all.
Yeah. Mhm.
So there's anger of like not being valued
Yep.
there, not being a human being at that point
Yep.
in time, being
Yep.
less than. So there's a lot of anger that comes from a long time ago. So of course there's going to be a lot of anger.
Mhm. Yeah. And I think we're just coming to a whole new level of understanding of emotions in the recent decade. And
Yeah,
how,
I agree.
yeah. I mean, we're doing the work ourselves and simultaneously trying to hold the space and teach our children at the same time. And that's heavy work. It's a lot. I find it exhausting sometimes.
It is. It is. I also feel like when we do the work, we don't even really have to express it to our children a lot because they just see it.
Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Emotions.
Mhm.
Beautiful emotions. Time to feel those emotions. So love to ask like the audience, what is the emotion that you have suppressed most?
Yeah.
And what was and why? Like what was the area in your life that you created this belief or had an experience that made you feel like you couldn't express this emotion? And then how have you created your entire life around suppressing that emotion? Because that means you're not authentic. And I don't want to say
Yeah.
that in a way that's like you're not authentic. It means that you've suppressed yourself, that you
Yeah.
are living out of alignment of who you truly are because suppressing a certain emotion because in the experience or a belief that you had about that emotion.
Yeah. You can't be the fullest expression of who you are if that's happening. Yeah.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love feedback on that.
Yeah. DM either one of us. Talk about it.
Yes,
Like tag us. I love to hear that.
yes.
Oh,
I think for me, mine was anger.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
mine was, no, mine was everything. Mine, like, I didn't cry for a long time. It took me like forever to cry in front of people. So first it was the crying, the vulnerability. That was the first step. Now I'm currently working on the realization that anger is okay.
Mhm.
Because I've had people tell me when you get mad that you're scary. So I would always like hold
Yeah.
it in and not get mad because I didn't want to scare people. But the real question is, why am I scary?
Mhm.
That's the real question. Like, what is it that I'm holding so deep in that I become
Yeah.
scary when anger comes about?
Mhm. Mm.
Mhm.
I think mine is sadness.
Mm.
Being or disappointment, just sadness, disappointment kind of thing. I wasn't allowed to be sad or disappointed. Yeah. And I think I've released a lot of that. I do. I would say the through my 20s, early 30s, I would just cry for no reason. Just cry, like heaving, sigh, like just cry uncontrollably. And then I would feel so much better. And I've noticed my daughter does the same thing. She will just cry for no reason. I'll just cry sad, the sadness coming out of her, just pouring out of her. And all I had to do is sit there, let her
Mm.
cry, and she gets to the end, goes to bed, and she's a different kid when she wakes up.
Mm.
Um, yeah, it's sadness and sadness over I don't even know. It's just sadness and disappointment over whatever.
Well, that always brings me back to epigenetics
Mhm.
because I was talking to someone the other day about guilt, and I explained to them that when you're working through the suppression of your voice and then you start speaking and you start feeling guilty for some of the things that you say, that it's going to be something that shows up for you numerous times
Mhm.
because I feel like it's not only your guilt, it's also the past ancestors'
Generations.
guilt.
Yep. Yeah.
You're
Totally.
doing the work of
Yeah.
your ancestors every time that comes up, and to never think that you're going backwards or you're not
Mhm.
moving if
Right.
guilt shows up because there's many layers
Yeah.
of the
Totally. Yeah, and I think initially I did feel that way, like, "God, is this again? This again?" But now I definitely understand, and even seeing it in my daughter, like, she's got a layer of it to clear herself,
Mhm,
and just sit there, like, I'll take the crying all day long.
mhm.
The yelling and the
Do you
kicking?
guys
No.
do you speak about it afterwards?
Yeah. I mean, and she's 10 now, she can articulate, she's like, "I don't know why I'm crying, I'm just gonna cry I just feel like crying," and she wails. Um, and I was never permitted to do that, at least that I recall. So I just sit there and like, okay, cry, get it out, do whatever you need to do. You follow your body knows best. Um, and afterwards, she's like, I don't know, I just wanted to cry. Like, okay, all right.
That's the deconditioning work
Mm-hmm.
right there.
Mm-hmm.
If you're supporting her, you're helping support her in the deconditioning both for you and her, you know? So I love that because I think that's the awareness of those patterns and
Yeah.
the awareness of like where we have conditioning with the defined, undefined, it
Yeah.
really gives us the opportunity to hold space
Yeah.
for whoever it
Mhm.
is, what age it is. It's just the awareness and then letting yourself become that messy that you need to be to release.
Yeah. Letting it be messy. Mhm.
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 I love the messy. You have it all put together. I know that's not real, but
There's
there
some
has to be
messy
some messy in there.
there's definitely some messy under there.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Well,
This was beautiful. A wonderful conversation, Miranda. Thank you so much as always. I love talking with you.
me too. I always walk away with so much goodness.
Yeah.
Also, just to mention to everyone, we are creating a mini mind together where we're going to go into the voice, deconditioning
Yeah.
aspects of the centers, becoming clear on who you are, uh, expressing yourself, even the uncomfortable, and then bringing that new awareness of who you are into the copy for your business.
Yeah.
That is coming about in the new year. Right now, we're just getting together, getting to know each other, chatting, feeling into each other, expressing. But we just want to see that again. It is
Yeah.
coming. So if you guys have questions, please let us know. Or even if you have ideas or insights, we're always open to receive
Definitely.
that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I definitely think that what we're doing it's for the person that is scared to be that authentic self. There's something edgy, really edgy about it. They don't want to show up. They don't want to put themselves out there because something could happen, whether that be opinions or judgment from other people or just who knows, it just feels scary. And that's really who this container is for, is to really understand why that feels so scary for you and then coming out with who your authentic self is.
Mhm. And being uncomfortable in that space.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's a process to like, you may think like for me, I felt like, "Oh, I know who I am." But then as I do deeper layers, I'm like, "Well, I only had my toe out there. There's a lot more."
Oh yeah, I definitely feel like that. Like you think that you're being and you're like, no, there's so much more
There's
you could
so
share.
much more. And it's okay to like,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say it is okay to be too much. It is
Mhm.
okay
Yeah.
to be that person. And we have been so conditioned that not to be too much.
Yeah.
But I'm like, you know what? It's time to be too much because then you're going to attract those people that really want to step into who they are authentically.
Mhm.
So it's for
Yeah.
those that are fearful, that those that may not know who you are, and those that kind of know who you are, but want to be more out there.
Mhm.
Definitely.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Mhm. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Miranda. All right. I'll see you guys later.